Romans hated the word king. They had overthrown their monarchy centuries before, building a republic they cherished above all else. They believed in the Senate, in shared power, in the rule of law. Yet this man, Augustus, managed to transform Rome into a one-man dictatorship, an empire, all while pretending he was restoring the republic. How did he pull off the greatest political trick in history? This is the story of Augustus Caesar and how he tricked Rome into becoming an empire. His story begins with chaos. In 44 BC, his great-uncle and adoptive father, Julius Caesar, the most powerful man in Rome, was assassinated by senators desperate to save the republic. Rome plunged back into bloody civil war. Into this maelstrom stepped Gaius Octavian, known to history as Octavian. He was just 18 years old, physically frail and seemingly insignificant, but he had two things: Caesar's vast fortune and, more importantly, Caesar's name. This was his first code, weaponizing legacy. While Caesar's assassins believed they had killed tyranny, Octavian skillfully positioned himself as the rightful heir, the man who would avenge Caesar and restore order. He raised armies simply by invoking Caesar's name, a name beloved by the common people and the legions. Few took him seriously at first. Seasoned politicians like Cicero saw him as a mere boy, a tool they could use and then discard. Mark Antony famously underestimated him, viewing him with contempt. This universal underestimation became Octavian's secret weapon. While his rivals postured and fought openly, he operated in the shadows, making calculated moves, forging alliances, and ruthlessly eliminating obstacles with a political cunning that belied his age and frail appearance. His chief rival was Mark Antony, Caesar's powerful and charismatic right-hand man. For years, they formed an uneasy alliance, hunting down Caesar's assassins, but eventually the alliance fractured, setting the stage for the final war of the Republic. Octavian, the master strategist, launched a brilliant propaganda war. He painted Antony not as a Roman hero, but as a traitor seduced by the foreign queen, Cleopatra of Egypt. He portrayed himself as the defender of Roman tradition, the protector of the Republic against Eastern decadence. It was a masterful manipulation of public opinion, turning Rome against its former hero. The final naval battle at Actium in 31 BC was decisive. Antony and Cleopatra were defeated, and Octavian stood alone, the undisputed master of the Roman world. With this victory, the 18-year-old boy who had inherited nothing but a name was now, at 32, the most powerful man on earth. But this presented his greatest problem. He had absolute power, but he lived in a city that despised absolute rulers. He knew that if he simply declared himself king or dictator for life like his great-uncle, he would end up with a knife in his back, just like his great-uncle. His solution was a masterpiece of political theater, the grand deception that would define his reign. He began by masterfully feigning the restoration of the Republic. In 27 BC, in a carefully staged event, he went before the Senate and dramatically renounced all his emergency powers, claiming to be returning control to them and the people of Rome. The senators, many of whom were already his loyalists, were terrified of more civil war. They begged him to stay in power to protect them. He reluctantly agreed, accepting a collection of titles that sounded traditional and harmless, but which, when combined, gave him total control. These titles were carefully chosen pieces of the puzzle. He accepted proconsular imperium, giving him command over the key military provinces. He was granted tribunician power for life, allowing him to veto the Senate and propose legislation, essentially giving him the people's mandate. He became Pontifex Maximus, the chief priest, controlling the state religion. Each title on its own had precedent within the Republic, but by accumulating all of them, Augustus effectively held all the power of a king without ever taking the hated name. He refused the title of dictator. Instead, he took the title Princeps, meaning first citizen. It sounded humble, as if he were just one of them. He also accepted the name Augustus, meaning the revered one, a name that lifted him above mere mortals with an aura of divine approval, but which came with no actual legal power. It was pure, brilliant branding. He was not a king. He was just the first citizen whom everyone revered. While he hid his true power behind these humble titles, he methodically consolidated his control over the two things that mattered, the military and the money. He maintained personal command of the most important legions, placing them in key provinces. He took control of the state treasury, ensuring that the army's payroll came directly from him, not the Senate. He had learned Caesar's lesson: the man who pays the soldiers is the man who rules Rome. This was the architecture of his illusion. He maintained all the outward appearances of the Republic. The Senate still met, elections were still held, the old offices still existed, but he held all the strings. He didn't abolish the Republic, he just made it irrelevant. He created a system where the Senate could debate anything they wanted, as long as they ultimately did exactly what he said. It was a dictatorship hidden in plain sight. To make this trick work, he had to keep the people happy. He used his immense personal wealth gathered from conquering Egypt to launch the most ambitious public works program in Roman history. He built temples, theaters, aqueducts, and a new public forum. He famously boasted that he found Rome a city of brick and left it a city of marble. He sponsored grand games and festivals, and most importantly, he guaranteed the grain dole, ensuring the poor were fed. Beyond just bread and circuses, Augustus also presented himself as a moral reformer, the restorer of traditional Roman values. He passed laws encouraging marriage and childbirth and penalizing adultery, even famously exiling his own daughter, Julia, for her scandalous behavior. This carefully crafted image as the guardian of morality further legitimized his rule in the eyes of the conservative Roman elite, making his power grab seem like a necessary step to restore order, not just politically, but socially as well. This was the Pax. His final act of genius was solving the problem of succession. A king names an heir, but a first citizen of a republic cannot. So Augustus didn't. Instead, he meticulously groomed his chosen successor, his stepson Tiberius, for power. He adopted Tiberius, granted him key military commands, and shared his own powers with him gradually over many years. When Augustus finally died peacefully in his bed, not in the Senate like Caesar, Tiberius was already in place, his authority established. The transfer of power was seamless. The Republic was officially dead, and the Empire had begun, all without a single declaration of war. The brilliance of his trick was its longevity. The system he created, the Principate, maintained the illusion of the Republic for nearly 3 centuries. Emperors after him continued to pay lip service to the Senate, even as their own power became increasingly absolute. Augustus didn't just seize power for himself, he created a sustainable template for autocratic rule, disguised as republican tradition, a code that would define the Roman Empire for the rest of its existence. Augustus had successfully tricked an entire civilization into giving up its freedom, and they had thanked him for it. And that is the architecture of the trick of Augustus Caesar. Remember, history is more than a story, it's a code, and there is always another layer to decrypt. Subscribe and continue the investigation with us.